In 1946, professional basketball took its first steps in America. The NBA was born into a post-war world hungry for entertainment. 51 years later, in 1997, another league emerged, the WNBA. Today, these two leagues stand as pillars of professional basketball, each writing its own chapter in the sport's history. But how different are they really? What can one tell us about the other, and what do they both tell us about the future of the sport? Well, first things first, let's talk money, and trust me, this is where things get really interesting. You might want to sit down for some of these numbers because they tell a story that's both fascinating and complex. The NBA generates around $10 billion per year, and that's billion with a B. To put that in perspective, that's more than the GDP of some small countries. The WNBA? About $60 million annually. Now, before you jump to conclusions, let's dig deeper because these numbers are just the beginning of the story. The average NBA player makes about $9.6 million per year. That's enough to buy a new luxury car every week and still have change left over. WNBA players? Well, they average around $113,000 per year, less than many entry-level corporate jobs. But when you look at these salaries as a percentage of league revenue, WNBA players actually earn a higher percentage than their NBA counterparts. That's right. WNBA players earn about 0.2% of their league's revenue, while NBA players earn about 0.1%. But there's another layer to this financial conundrum. The WNBA currently operates at a loss of about $10 million per year. Without the NBA's financial backing, the league might not exist as we know it today. Is this a sign of failure? Well, not necessarily. Remember Amazon? They operated at a loss for years before becoming one of the world's most valuable companies. Building something sustainable takes time, especially in the competitive world of professional sports. The real question isn't just about profit and loss, it's about investment in the future. The NBA's support of the WNBA is a long-term investment in growing the sport of basketball. The goal isn't just immediate profitability, it's about building something that can stand the test of time. But enough about the business side. What really matters happens on the hardwood, because this is where some of the most fascinating differences between the leagues come to light. You know how they say numbers don't lie? Well, these numbers tell quite a story. Take dunking, for instance. In the NBA, we're looking at over 11,000 dunks per season. Now, if you break that down mathematically, you're seeing about 3 dunks per game multiplied across 30 teams over 82 games. It's become such a regular occurrence that we almost take it for granted. Now, if we switch over to the WNBA, you're looking at a total of 33 dunks in the entire history of the league since 1997. That's right, what happens multiple times in a single NBA game has happened just 33 times in 26 years of WNBA play. But here's where things get really interesting. When we look at free throw percentages, the script flips completely. The WNBA consistently outperforms the NBA from the charity stripe, with an impressive 80.4% success rate compared to the NBA's 75.6%. Think about what this means for a moment. While the NBA game might be played more above the rim, WNBA players are demonstrating superior accuracy in one of basketball's most fundamental skills. Neither approach is inherently better, they're just different ways of achieving excellence. The contrasting statistics also reflect different approaches to the game. The WNBA tends to emphasize fundamental skills, team play, and tactical execution, while the NBA often showcases individual athleticism and explosive plays. Both styles have their merits, and both require incredible skill and dedication to master. Now let's get into something that might seem small but actually makes a big difference: the equipment. You might be thinking basketball is basketball, right? Well, not exactly. The devil, as they say, is in the details. The WNBA ball is 1 inch smaller in circumference and 2 ounces lighter than its NBA counterpart. It might not sound like much, but ask any player who's switched between the two and they'll tell you it makes a world of difference. These small variations can have huge impacts on performance. The smaller, lighter ball in the WNBA allows for better ball control and might contribute to those higher free throw percentages we talked about earlier. But despite the ball size differences, both leagues use the same rim size. This creates an interesting dynamic where WNBA players are actually shooting at a proportionally larger target relative to their ball size. The court dimensions remain the same across both leagues as well, which means the playing field is literally level. Same distances, same lines, same spaces to cover. While the equipment shapes how the game is played, it's the fans who shape how the game is experienced. And when we look at who's watching these leagues, the reality might surprise you. First, let's look at the digital footprint. NBA.com pulls in about 91.8 million monthly visits. That's like having the entire population of Germany checking in every month. WNBA.com sees about 1.8 million monthly visits. But would you believe that 62.84% of WNBA.com visitors are men? That's right, the majority of online WNBA fans are male, not female, as many might assume. The NBA's website shows a similar gender split with about 70.69% male visitors. But let's put these percentages into real numbers because this is where things get eye-opening. Those percentages mean that about 27 million women visit NBA.com monthly, while only about 800,000 women visit WNBA.com. Think about that for a second. The NBA is actually reaching more female fans online than the WNBA is. Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, once made an interesting observation in a Washington Post interview. He noted that women's basketball tends to attract older men for God knows what reason. When it comes to records and achievements, both leagues have stories worth telling. Take scoring records, for instance. In the WNBA, we have Diana Taurasi, who's racked up 9,858 points over 19 seasons. That's an incredible achievement, but when you flip back through the NBA history books, you'll find that Wilt Chamberlain crossed the 10,000 point mark in just 236 games. While individual records tell personal stories of greatness, team success writes chapters in city histories. And sometimes these stories don't play out like you'd expect. Let's zoom in on Phoenix, Arizona, because what's happening there turns conventional wisdom on its head. The Phoenix Suns, an NBA team that's been around since 1968, with some of the most passionate fans in basketball, legendary players like Charles Barkley and Steve Nash gracing their court, yet they're still chasing that first elusive championship. Now, right across town, the Phoenix Mercury have brought home 3 WNBA championships. This isn't just a quirky statistical anomaly. It's a perfect example of how success in one league doesn't automatically translate to success in the other, even within the same city. What makes this even more interesting is how it affects the local basketball culture. Young players in Phoenix grow up with 2 very different basketball stories: the Suns' legacy of exciting basketball and near misses, and the Mercury's proven championship pedigree. It's a reminder that excellence in basketball isn't confined to one league or one gender. It's about the right combination of talent, teamwork, and timing. Lastly, let's dive into something that doesn't get enough attention: how players in both leagues develop their careers and what opportunities they have to make a living in professional basketball. Because trust me, this is where things get really interesting. Did you know that the average G League player, that's the NBA's developmental league, makes about $40,000 per year? Now compare that to the WNBA, where players average $113,000. That's nearly triple the salary, but here's the thing, this isn't just about the numbers. It's about the entire structure of professional basketball and how players build their careers. NBA players typically have a more straightforward path. College basketball, maybe the G League, then hopefully the NBA. But WNBA players, their career paths often look more like international business executives. Many play year-round, spending their WNBA off-seasons competing in European or Asian leagues to supplement their income. Think about what that means for a moment. While NBA players might spend their off-season training and recovering, many WNBA players are crossing time zones, adapting to different styles of play, and literally becoming global athletes. The development systems in both leagues also tell an interesting story about opportunity and growth. The NBA has created a robust pipeline with the G League, summer leagues, and developmental programs. The WNBA, working with different resources and a different calendar, has to be more creative, often partnering with international leagues and creating unique player development opportunities. But hey, that's just my take. What surprised you most about these comparisons? Maybe it was the free throw percentages, or those fascinating fan demographics. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell too, so that way you know when we upload our next video. We're always breaking down the biggest stories and trends in the NBA, and you won't want to miss our future videos. Trust me, with how quickly things change in the NBA, you're always going to want to stay up to date. We'll see you next time.